Okay, we're back. So this is part 2, and this is going over what lens you should buy. We're gonna do a quick recap, but no need to waste time. Let's get started. All right, let's get into the differences between wide, telephoto, macro, and those kind of lenses. So it helps you kind of pick out which lens you want. So a wide angle is just that. It's gonna give you a broad landscape of a photo. A telephoto is gonna zoom in and it's going to pull a lot of the background in. So what does this do? Let's look at some examples here. Here is a 15mm lens. Now, I look fantastic, let's be real, like this right here, this works. I can pull that off. Not so much. Anyways, notice that there's a lot of information in the picture. You see me from about mid-shoulder, mid-arm up, and you see this beautiful floof in my hair. But you see a lot of things around me too. So this is 15mm. So let's go to 50mm. Now remember, 50mm is what's considered standard. It's like what the eye would see. So here's a 50mm. This looks pretty good, but notice the difference between the 15 and the 50. If you look at the 15, you get this fence in the side, you even get this tree, like some of the tree there. Then you go to the 50, now you still get the branches of the tree, but you don't see the fence anymore, and the background, notice that fence behind me is pulled up. If we go back to the 15, you notice that fence is way back there. I mean, that is really far back, you're not gonna see much. Let's go to 128 now. Here's 128. Now you don't see any of really the tree except for a branch up there on the top left. You see those posts of the fence quite a lot, and it's definitely pulled the background in. So this is definitely zoomed in more. Now, just as a note, I haven't moved my position at all in these photos. The camera has moved to continue to get these photos, but me personally, I'm in the same exact spot the entire time. The next photo, let's do this 200mm. And you'll notice now you can see the fence post here in the background. Everything is very, very blurry. It's got that nice bokeh. This is why I love doing portraits between 115 and 200 because it creates such a beautiful bokeh. It just blurs that background and creates a nice backdrop for your subject. Notice these posts on the left and right of me, the one with the red and then the black on top. So this is 200mm. Now let's look at the 15mm. You can't even see those posts. Those posts are back there. I'll put an arrow on the screen where they are, but they're back there. You just can't see them at all. Go back to the 200 and you'll notice there they are right there. Now, like I said, I didn't move at all in these photos. So here's a picture of the 200mm. There's where the camera was and there's where I stood. Now here's the 50mm. There's where the camera is and there's where I stood. And then here is the 15mm and there's where I am and there's where the camera stood. So these are definitely a big difference to get those photos, and you can kind of see what it creates. So it's really important to know what effect a camera is going to create when you are buying your cameras. Okay, the next is the macro lens. Now, to be honest, I am no professional at macro lenses, but I thought it was a good point to note because macro photography is really important. A couple of things you need is a lot of light because you are generally going to be shooting at a higher f-stop to get things more in focus. But a macro lens is very, very good because it gets really fine close-up details. If you're taking pictures of water droplets or bugs like bees or wedding photography and you're doing detailed shots of the rings or the shoelaces or something like that, a macro lens is key. I have a 100mm macro. It is a prime lens. It's an f2.8 100mm fixed. So this is my macro lens that I use. Now, I'm not the macro photographer, my fiance is. Here's some footage of her taking a photo of a flower using the 100mm macro, and here's the photo that resulted from it. Now, you'll notice it is very, very detailed. This is really, really crisp. If you zoom in on this photo, you can see the detail of the water drops. It's incredible. And notice in the video how close she is. So here is her using a 70-200 at 100mm. This is the photo with this lens trying to take the same picture from the same distance. The camera couldn't even focus, so this is what you turned out. Now, for her to get that same exact photo, she had to stand far back, and this is the best she could do. This was the maximum distance, and this was the best photo she could get. She couldn't get any closer without losing focus, and the camera's not able to focus, even in manual focus. This is all at 100 millimeters, so it's all apples to apples comparison. So this is the difference between a macro and a 7200. Now, again, all these were shot at the same thing, but it shows you the capabilities of lenses. Macro photography is awesome. Not my forte, but it's an important thing to go over. The next one is pretty quick. It's the difference between a 50 millimeter prime and a 24-70 at 50 millimeters. A lot of people ask, is there a difference between 50 millimeters at prime or a 50 millimeter at a zoom lens, or say a 50 millimeter at a different lens, like a 24-105? So I took a couple of photos, and just to clarify, this is a 51.8, this is a 24-70 2.8. Here's the first photo, the 24-70. This is shot at 2.8 at 50 millimeters. Cool, great photo, nice bokeh, it's in focus. Here's the 50 millimeter prime at 2.8. I don't really see too big a difference. The one thing I do notice is the prime looks a shade sharper in the flower. Overall, it's really very similar. The biggest difference is going to be your f-stop. So here is the 24-70 at 50 millimeters at 2.8. Here is the 50 millimeter prime at 1.8. Notice the more blur, the more bokeh, and again, it's pretty sharp. So this is kind of the biggest difference, is the f-stop. But 50 millimeters on one lens at the same f-stop is going to be fairly comparable overall to a 50 millimeter at the same f-stop on another lens. The things that will come into play are the quality of the lens, like a kit lens versus a luxury lens. Obviously, the luxury lens is gonna take better photos because it's higher quality glass, it's better technology, things like that. But overall, you're gonna get about the same. And the next thing we come to is why lenses vary in price so freaking much. Oh, hey guys, it's me again. So, quick little thing, I hope you're enjoying this video. I know we're going over a lot of information, but if you could really quick just go ahead and like the video, it makes a huge difference. And if you learned one piece of data in this video, I think that deserves a like. At least I hope so. But it does really help me, and I greatly appreciate it. So go ahead and like the video, and let's carry on. For example, this 50 millimeter prime 1.8 is only $125. Where this 24-70 2.8 L lens is close to around $2,000. And then I think there's an f4 version of this lens, which is about $900 to $1,000. Those are some big differences. So what are the things that come into play? Well, a couple of things. First, it's the glass. It's the quality of the glass that they actually use. It creates different effects, lens flares and things like that's gonna make a big difference. Clarity of image is gonna make a difference. But the biggest difference is going to be the f-stop. The lower the f-stop and the more fixed it is, the higher the price is gonna be. It's gonna make a big difference. So the f2.8 is close to $2,000 because it's f2.8 throughout the whole 24-70. The f4 is fixed at 4. So an f4 to an f2.8 is a full stop difference. That means that an f2.8 can get double the amount of light in than an f4 can, and that can make a huge difference when shooting low light or indoor or anything like that. That's why they're primarily more expensive. This does vary, and this is not 110% the reason, but it does make a difference. Obviously, brand lenses like the Canon, G Master, or Nikon lenses that are made by the brand are going to be more expensive than their counterparts from like Sigma or Tamron. You can get a 24-70 f2.8 for say $2,000 with Canon, or you can get a 24-70 2.8 with Tamron for, I don't know, like 900. I'm not 100% sure, but it does make a difference. The next thing is, are lenses more important than bodies? Which one should you spend more money on? Well, this is up for debate. My personal opinion is you should invest in your lenses. Lenses come out much less regular than bodies. There's always a new body. Every single year, there's a new camera body that comes out with the newest updates, the newest upgrades, this, that, and the other thing. Lenses will last. So if you're going to drop some money, if you're going to spend some money and invest in this hobby, professionalism, or whatever, I recommend spending the money in the lenses because they will last longer, you won't upgrade them as often, and quality lenses make a huge difference because the technology stays relatively the same. The next thing we are going to go over is what lens you should buy. Now that you understand basically everything there is to know about lenses, what lens should you buy? But first, I want to give you 3 free presets for Lightroom that I absolutely love. One of these presets, the apocalyptic preset that comes free with this pack, is a preset that I created when I did an edit on a photo that is one of my most popular prints, and I have sold thousands and thousands of dollars of this print, and I'm going to give you that preset, that edit, for free. All you have to do is click the link in the description and fill out the form, and they will be emailed directly to you. So what lens should you buy? Well, there are tons of lenses to choose from, and you don't want to make the wrong choice because you're going to spend quite a bit of money on these and you're going to have it for a while. So if you're a beginner, here are my recommendations, and here's kind of a basic overview of what you can use each lens for. So a wide angle, anything from 15 to 35, you're primarily going to shoot landscapes and things like that, but you can also do portraits at 35, around there. You don't want to go too wide because then it kind of distorts the model and doesn't look that great. If you're going for kind of just standard, I'm taking photos of life, then a 24-70 is probably perfect, and you can get semi-wide with 24, and you can get zoomed in with 70. So it's kind of a good all-around lens. Now a telephoto, like a 70 to 200, is gonna be really, really good. I love portraits at 115. The bokeh, the blur is just, it's beautiful, and I highly recommend using it for that. But like wildlife, sporting events, things like that, you're gonna use anything that you can't get close to safely or comfortably, you want to zoom in, 7200 is pretty solid. Now, if you're doing events or something like that where you need detailed shots, you can get a macro lens. The macro 100 is also really good for portraits because it gets a lot of detail. Now, if you just want something to just go around shooting, get a 24 to 105 or an 18 to 55 or something like that. If you just need a standard lens, again, you can use any lens for anything. There's nothing really specific that you need, but this is just kind of like a basic template, I guess you could call it, and you could just decide what you want from there. Now the question comes, which lens, which kind of level of lens? Do you want the kit lens? Do you want the mid-range? Do you want the luxury lens? Well, lenses can get quite expensive, so any lens can work for anything. It just depends on what your goal is. If you're just a casual photographer and you just want to take some photos, then just get an average lens. Just get, you can even get a Tamron or a Sigma that fits for Canon, EF mount or RF mount, whichever Canon body you get. And then for Sony and Nikon and stuff, just find the corresponding mount that is correct for your camera. But you have to decide if that is going to be good enough for you. Can you take good images with the cheaper lens? Yes. Will it be good enough for professional portraits or landscape prints or high-end photography? Maybe, but you will be better off with the higher end lenses. But just like the carpenter who buys cheap tools, you know, you have longevity, you have quality, and you have just general value of your tools. So the better quality you get, the better quality results you will have. In the end, it's not really up to the gear, it's up to you as the photographer. If you can't take good photos with a cheap lens, you probably can't take good photos with an expensive lens. I mean, it is what it is. Like, the better the gear you have is not gonna make you a better photographer. That's gonna come with practice and determination and education. That's all there is to it. And that's it. That's it for this video. Whew! That was a long video, but if you made it all the way through this video, you are dedicated, and I recommend going with the expensive lens. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you didn't like it earlier, please like it right now. It does make a huge difference. If you have any questions or just want to say hi, you can comment below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I do videos like this every Monday at 7 p.m. But it was good to see you again. I will see you guys next time.